Ukraine has just destroyed something that Putin will never be able to replace. On the night of February 7th, Ukrainian drones flew more than 700 kilometers. All the way to the heart of Russia and reduced an industrial plant to ashes. NASA confirmed the fire, witnesses filmed the explosions, but what was burning was not oil, it was not ammunition, it was something that kept Putin's deadliest missiles flying. Now, the black smoke rising from Redkino carries with it Russia's ability to produce these weapons, and there's nothing Putin can do to bring that back. Let's start with what happened. What happened? According to United 24 media, in the early hours of February 7th, drones from the Security Service of Ukraine took off toward Redkino. The village is located in the Tver region, strategically positioned between Moscow and St. Petersburg. Putin thought it was safe. We're talking about a distance of 700 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. There are several layers of Russian territory in between, anti-air defenses along the way, but none of that mattered. The drones made it through all of that. Residents filmed the moment in one of the videos shared on X by United 24 media. You can see the flames through a line of trees. There was the buzzing of the drones approaching. There was the desperate firing of Russian air defenses, failing to shoot them down. The drone hits the target, the explosion is massive, the Redkino plant goes up in flames. The Telegram channel Astra published another video showing one of the drones on its way to hit the site. Then came the detail that confirms Ukraine hit something critical. Witnesses at the scene reported a strong chemical odor coming from the destroyed plant. It's not the smell of burning concrete, it's industrial chemicals, but that wasn't the only thing burning. That night, while Redkino was burning, the Bryansk region was being hit. Neptune missiles and HIMARS systems destroyed infrastructure and energy structures throughout the region. In the next episode, 7 municipalities were left without electricity. The regional governor, Alexander Bogomaz, publicly confirmed the attack. This is something rare, very rare. Russia usually denies everything. When a Russian governor admits to serious damage, you know the situation is worse than he's saying. Now consider the following. Bryansk borders the Ukrainian regions of Sumy and Chernihiv. As you can see, Ukraine is making the Russians feel what it means to live under constant bombardment. But there's more. Belgorod is also in the dark. Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov made a grim statement to the population. The enemy shelled the civilian city of Belgorod. Everyone knows we don't have military targets. There was serious damage. It's a dishonest statement. Russia turned energy into a military target when it began systematically destroying Ukrainian electrical infrastructure. Now it's learning what that really means. And for the third time in a week, Belgorod is facing widespread blackouts. It's not an isolated incident, it's a pattern, and here's the detail that makes it even more brutal. Days earlier, Ukrainian drones hit the Luch thermal power plant in Belgorod. Turbines were destroyed. And do you know who made them? General Electric, the American company? "80,000 residents lost heating and electricity. The temperature was minus 15 degrees Celsius. To prevent the pipes from freezing and bursting, the authorities drained the entire city heating system, while the governor of Belgorod talks about civilian targets. Thousands of Russians are shivering from the cold because their government decided to turn energy into a weapon of war. The irony is huge. The scale of this attack is impressive. On the same night, the Balashov oil depot in Saratov was hit by Ukrainian drones. This depot supplied fuel to Russian armored units. Now it's burning in 4 different regions, multiple strategic targets, a single coordinated operation. But out of all these targets, Redkino is different. Redkino is the biggest prize. The company's official website says they are a manufacturer of unique chemical products for the aerospace and space industries for several decades. Now, the most important thing here is the words several decades and unique, because this shows that this plant has existed for as long as Putin has been in power, and what it produces can't be found anywhere else in Russia. Few people know, but Redkino manufactures Desilin-M, a high-density synthetic fuel designed specifically for long-range cruise missiles. We're talking about missiles like the KH-55, the KH-101-1, the KH-555, and the Caliber missiles launched from the sea. Without Desilin-M, these missiles don't fly. It's that simple. And now the only source of this fuel is on fire. And do you know why this fuel is so important to the Russians? Because it stays liquid at temperatures below -50 degrees Celsius, and that's essential. The reason is simple. These missiles fly at extremely high altitudes over long distances. Under these conditions, regular fuel would freeze, the engine would fail, and the missile would fall from the sky. But Desilin-M keeps flowing, even when the Tu-95 MS bomber or Tu-160 launches the missile at 12,000 meters altitude. It took Russia decades to master this engineering, but Ukraine destroyed everything in one night. And each Ko-101-1 missile requires approximately 1.5 tons of Desilin-M, and there's an important detail here. The synthesis of this fuel depends on very specific equipment. According to investigations, this plant that Ukraine attacked used equipment manufactured by the American company Ecolab, specifically the Purolite CT-175 resin. Russia tried to replace it with domestic alternatives, but the Russians themselves admit that these substitutes are significantly less efficient, and there's an even bigger problem for them. These reactors are unique, custom-made, according to sources. Manufacturing and installing new reactors like these takes 6 to 12 months under normal conditions, but these are not normal conditions. Redkino's facility is already under sanctions from the United Kingdom and the United States. The Western components needed to build these reactors are completely blocked. Putin might even have access to Chinese or North Korean technology, but replacing decades of reliance on Western precision equipment just doesn't happen. Overnight, Ukraine destroyed in hours what would take a year to rebuild. And every day without Desilin-M production is a day without new missiles ready for launch. Remember when we mentioned the KH-100? Let's go back to that missile because it's the weapon Russia uses to terrorize Ukrainian cities. In July 2024, a Ko-101 hit the Akhmata Children's Hospital, the largest pediatric hospital in Ukraine. Injured children, doctors running through hallways covered in debris. It was one of the most shocking moments of the war, and that specific missile tells us something critical about Russia's supply chain. Damian Spleeters from Conflict Armament Research, a United Kingdom-based investigative organization, examined the wreckage. The missile was manufactured in the second quarter of 2024, between April 1st and June 30th. The attack happened on July 8th. Do the math. The missile was produced between 8 days and 12 weeks before it was launched. The New York Times documented this in August of 2024, using the term hand-to-mouth to describe this situation. In other words, what they mean is that Russia clearly doesn't have strategic stockpiles. They produce, supply, and use immediately, and knowing this changes everything. If Russia had warehouses full of missiles and fuel, destroying Redkino would just be an inconvenience, a temporary disruption, but they don't have warehouses full. Production feeds directly into consumption. And do you stop the attacks? Not in 6 months, not in 3 months, now. And here's the brutal irony. Russia is paying the price for its own strategy. For months, Putin methodically bombarded Ukraine's energy infrastructure. In January 2026 alone, Russia launched 158 missiles of various types at Ukraine, an average of 5.5 missiles per day. In December, the Center for European Policy Analysis documented that all 15 of Ukraine's thermal power plants were damaged or destroyed. On November 25th, simultaneous blackouts hit Kyiv, leaving 40,000 people without power. In Dnipro, it was 21,000. In Odessa, 20,000. Putin tried to break the Ukrainian will by attacking their energy, and Ukraine responded by attacking Russia's ability to manufacture the weapons used in those attacks. Putin chose the rules of the game, and now he's finding out that Ukraine plays better. President Volodymyr Zelensky explained this directly on February 8th. When asked if Ukraine has the resources to attack energy instead of purely military targets, he said, "We don't need to choose between hitting military targets or energy infrastructure. He sells that energy, Putin sells oil, so is it an energy target or a military target? Honestly, it's the same thing. He sells oil, takes the money, invests in weapons, and uses those weapons to kill Ukrainians." This statement shows that for Russia, energy is military capability, industrial infrastructure is military capability. And Redkino, well, it was military capability, but Redkino produced more than just fuel. The plant also manufactured silicon carbide, used in composite materials for aircraft and missile fuselages. Boron nitride, a ceramic coating that protects engine components against corrosion at high temperatures. Heat-resistant enamels for rockets. Putin built an integrated supply chain facility. Ukraine destroyed everything at once. You don't just lose the fuel, you lose multiple critical components for multiple weapons platforms, and Russia knows that. That's why the Russian Ministry of Defense issued a statement saying only that their air defenses destroyed 4 Ukrainian drones on the night of February 7th. 4 drones with no mention of Redkino, no mention of damage. But as we said at the beginning, NASA satellite images show active fires at the plant's coordinates. The videos show explosions, witnesses report a chemical smell. Russia can deny it, but the visible evidence from space doesn't lie. As you can see, without Desilin-M fuel, Putin can no longer supply several of his missiles. Without missiles like the Kh-101, Russia loses one of its main attack tools. With long-range precision, the Kh-101 has a declared range of up to 4,500 kilometers and an accuracy of 10 to 20 meters. Russia even developed a version with a dual warhead in 2024, twice as lethal. These weapons were fundamental to the Russian strategy. Now the production line is severely compromised, possibly permanently. Now, do you know what's even more brilliant behind this attack? Watch. The success rate of Ukrainian air defense varied in October of 2025. Russia launched 270 missiles. Ukraine shot down 146, a success rate of 54%. That's impressive, but it still means that 124 missiles reached their targets. Putin preferred that Ukraine spend resources intercepting them in the air. Ukraine then decided to destroy the factory to cut the problem at its root, and this is just the beginning. 5 days later, on February 12th, Ukrainian drones hit the Ukhta oil refinery in the Komi Republic, 1,750 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. It's a new record. The refinery processes 4.2 million tons of oil annually and supplies fuel to Russia's Northern Forces Group. Putin thought the Arctic was safe. He was wrong. The message is clear. No Russian industrial facility is out of reach from Belgorod on the border to the Russian Arctic. Ukraine can hit anything. Now, do you know why Ukraine decided to carry out this attack? The answer to that question is revealing. On January 9, 2026, Russia launched a massive attack against Ukraine using an Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile capable of carrying nuclear warheads. The target was critical infrastructure near Lviv. The Kremlin presented this as revenge for an alleged Ukrainian attack on Putin's residence in Valdai. Putin wanted to intimidate, wanted to show strength, wanted Ukraine to back down, but the intimidation didn't work. Ukraine didn't back down. Instead, it intensified the attack on Redkino. It was the response to Oreshnik. Putin showed nuclear weapons. Ukraine destroyed the conventional weapons factory he actually uses. Putin played chess by attacking Ukrainian civilians and their infrastructure. Ukraine responded by flipping the board and burning down the factory where the pieces are made. And now Russia faces an uncomfortable truth because distance is no longer protection, territorial depth is no longer security, and some things once destroyed simply don't work the way they used to anymore. Now I want to know your opinion. Do you think Russia can recover from the loss of Redkino? Leave your answer in the comments. If this video made you think differently about Ukraine's reach and strategy, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to see this. See you in the next video.